I should have listened to the warnings. Every guy on the expat forums said the same thing. Don't marry too soon. Don't confuse kindness with love. And for God's sake, keep your money separate. But when you're sitting on a white sand beach in Palawan, watching a woman smile at you like you're the only man in the world, logic has a way of drowning beneath the waves. Her name was Liza. The first time I saw her, she was working behind the reception desk at a small resort on El Nido's coast. I'd just arrived from Cebu, after months of drifting backpacking, drinking, pretending I was finding myself after a failed marriage back in Australia. She had that Filipina calm, soft eyes, gentle voice, and a laugh that made every other sound fade. She looked at me like she saw something worth saving, and that was dangerous. I was 43 then. She was 27. I told myself age didn't matter. I told myself I deserved a second chance. But deep down, I think I knew what was coming. Back then, life was easy. I'd cash out small freelance jobs online and stretch them across months in the islands. Liza and I started small dinners on the beach, scooter rides through the jungle, nights in cheap inns where the fan hummed louder than the rain. She never asked for money, never hinted at gifts. That's what disarmed me. I was used to girls in Angeles City, or Pattaya, the transactional kind, where love had a daily rate. But Liza, she seemed different. When she took me to her hometown in Roxas, I met her family, a cluster of homes built from corrugated metal and plywood. Her father was quiet, her mother shy. Her little brothers stared at me like I was from another planet. That night, they cooked me tilapia over coals and gave me the only bottle of San Miguel they had. I remember feeling chosen, like I was being welcomed into something honest and pure. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. I'd wake up to her cooking rice over a small burner, humming to herself. She'd pack fruit for me before I went to the cafe to work. We talked about everything: dreams, fears, how she wanted to finish her degree in tourism management. I wanted to believe I could give her that. Then came the proposal. I didn't plan it. We were sitting on a hill overlooking the sea, watching fishermen pull their nets in. I'd had a few rums, the sun was setting, and something inside me whispered, "This is it. This is what peace feels like." I remember turning to her, holding her hand, and saying, "Liza, marry me." She froze, then laughed nervously. "Are you sure?" I said yes. I thought love was enough. We had a simple wedding at a small chapel in Puerto Princesa. Her entire barangay came. I was the token foreigner groom, smiling awkwardly through photos, drenched in sweat, with a ring that cost less than my flight from Manila. Her parents cried. Her friends giggled. Liza looked radiant in her borrowed dress, eyes shining like she truly believed in forever. For a while, I did too. We moved into a small house near the beach. I used my savings to fix it up: new paint, a small fridge, even a second-hand TV. Liza insisted she didn't want me to spend too much, but she never said no either. Her family started visiting more often. First for lunch, then for weekends. Then her cousin needed a place to stay. Then her brother needed help finding work. I told myself it was just culture, Filipinos help their own, but something changed. The girl who used to laugh with me every night started scrolling her phone for hours. The warmth in her voice began to cool. She said she wanted to start a small business, a sorry store maybe. I agreed. I always agreed. I transferred money. She bought supplies, then more supplies, then a tricycle for deliveries. Soon my account was draining faster than I could refill it. Still, I told myself it was fine. I was her husband. That's what you do. Until the day I realized I wasn't her dream. I was her exit plan. When I think back to those first months with Liza, it almost feels like a dream I made up to protect myself from the truth that came later. Everything about her felt so real, the way she'd slip her hand into mine while we walked through the market, the way she'd hum love songs under her breath while washing clothes in a plastic basin, the way she'd rest her head on my chest during afternoon storms. We weren't rich, but we didn't need to be. She taught me how to live slow. I used to measure life in deadlines and invoices. She measured it in sunsets and mangoes. She'd say, "Why hurry, honey? The ocean never rushes." And I'd laugh, because she was right for once. I wasn't chasing anything. I was just being. There were nights when the electricity went out and we'd sit on the porch with candles, listening to crickets. She'd tell me about her childhood, the typhoons that wrecked their house, her father's years on fishing boats, the time she dreamed of working in Dubai but couldn't afford the placement fee. I'd tell her about my old life, the divorce, the loneliness, the way I'd lost faith in people. She'd listen quietly, then say, "That's why God sent you here." It's embarrassing now, but I believed her. We started building a rhythm. She'd handle the house, I'd handle the money. Every morning I'd work online for a few hours, then join her at the market or at the beach. Locals started calling me Kuya Mark. Her family began treating me like one of their own. It was intoxicating, that sense of belonging I hadn't felt in years. We had our share of small fights, nothing serious. She didn't like when I drank too much. I didn't like when she stayed out too long with her friends. Once, I saw a message from a guy on her phone, a coworker from the resort. She brushed it off. "He's just asking for help, honey." I wanted to believe her. So I did. Then she said she wanted to finish school. She dropped out 2 years before we met, just a semester short of her degree. I thought it was a great idea. "I'll support you," I told her. "You deserve that." That's when I made my first real mistake. Tuition wasn't expensive, maybe 30,000 a semester, but once she enrolled, there were always extra fees, field trips, projects, laptops. I told myself it was all worth it. She'd come home with her notes, tell me about her professors, and I'd feel proud, like I was helping her build a better future. But soon, school became an excuse for distance. She was always busy, always with classmates. The late-night texts, the giggles during calls, the sudden silences when I entered the room, they all started stacking up. Small red flags waving in the corner of my mind. Still, every time doubt crept in, she'd find a way to disarm me. A kiss on the cheek, a gentle, "I love you, honey," and I'd melt. We took trips whenever we could. Cebu, Bohol, even Boracay once. She'd pose for photos by the water, throw her hair back, laugh into the camera. She loved attention, and I loved giving it to her. Sometimes she'd post pictures with captions like, "My forever love," and tag me. My friends back home would comment things like, "You're living the dream, mate." And I thought I was. One night in Boracay, we lay on the sand, drunk on cheap rum and moonlight. I told her I wanted to buy land there someday, maybe build a small guest house. She smiled, ran her fingers down my chest, and whispered, "We can do it together." That word "together," it became my blindfold. I wired more money. I opened a joint account in her name. I thought I was securing our future, but really, I was handing her the keys to my downfall. Around that time, her mother fell sick. Kidney problems, she said. They needed money for treatment. Of course, I helped. I sent IEW 80,000, then another E 40,000 for medicines. I even went with her to the hospital once her mother looked fine, chatting, smiling, not the frail woman I expected. But I didn't question it. Love makes you complicit in your own blindness. Then came the idea for the Sorry Sorry store. She said, "Honey, if we have a small business, I can help you. You won't have to work so much." I liked the sound of that. So I funded it, rented a space near the road, bought shelves, stock, signage. The day it opened, she cried, hugged me, and said, "You're my blessing." But soon after, I started noticing small things that didn't add up. Inventory disappearing, suppliers paid twice, random withdrawals from our joint account. When I asked, she'd get defensive, "Why don't you trust me?" And I'd back off, guilt washing over me like salt water. Then one evening, as I sat on the porch with a beer, her phone buzzed on the table. A message popped up, a man's name, one I didn't recognize. The text read, "Miss you, babe. Can't wait to see you again." I remember the sound of my heart breaking quiet, almost polite. I didn't confront her right away. I waited. I watched. I started noticing her leaving earlier, dressing up more. Once, I followed her. She wasn't going to school. She was meeting someone, a younger guy, Filipino, probably mid-20s. They sat at a cafe near the pier, laughing, hands touching across the table. I turned around before she could see me, walked straight to the shore, stood there until the sun went down, the tide creeping at my feet, my whole body shaking. That night, she came home late. I asked where she'd been. She said, "Group project." I nodded, pretending to believe her. But inside, I knew everything was about to collapse. After that night, something inside me cracked, not loud enough to be heard, but deep enough that it never fully healed. I started noticing every detail, the way she flinched when I touched her phone, how she angled the screen away when a message came in, the faint perfume I didn't recognize. The truth was like smoke. I could smell it everywhere, but I couldn't grab it. I told myself to stay calm, to collect proof before I accused her. But when you love someone, logic turns into torture. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and check if she was still beside me. Sometimes she wasn't. Bathroom. She'd mumble when she came back, but her phone would be missing from the table. I started drinking again quietly at first, a few beers after work, then rum. Then stronger stuff. The same poison I thought I'd left behind in my old life. Liza hated it. Or maybe she pretended to. She'd sigh and say, "You promised to stop, honey." And I'd snap back, "Then stop lying to me." The house turned cold. Her family stopped visiting. The Sorry Sorry store closed. The laughter, the warmth, gone. She said I was paranoid, that I was ruining everything with my jealousy. But when you've built your life on trust and that trust starts to rot, even silence becomes suspicious. One night, I finally snapped. She was sitting on the bed, texting. I grabbed her phone. She screamed, tried to snatch it back, but I held firm. And there it was, a thread of messages between her and the same man from the cafe. His name was Jay. The words blurred as I read them. "Miss you too, babe. When can we meet again?" He doesn't suspect anything. I remember my hands trembling, the world going quiet. "Who is he?" I asked. She just stared at me, defiant, unflinching. "A friend." "Don't lie to me, Liza." Her eyes flashed. "You don't own me, Mark. You're not my jailer." That line cut deep, because in that moment, I realized something brutal. She didn't even feel guilty. Not really. She just felt caught. She stormed out, leaving me alone in the dark with my own heartbeat echoing like waves against a cliff. For the next week, she barely spoke to me, slept in the other room. When she did talk, it was only to say she needed space. Then, out of nowhere, she suggested we take a break. Just for a little while, she said. Maybe you can go back to Australia, fix your visa, see your family. It was the softest way of saying leave. I didn't argue. I was too tired. Too broken to fight for something that already felt dead. I told myself maybe a break would help. Maybe she'd miss me. Maybe she'd remember what we had before the money, before the lies. So I booked a ticket. I left her enough money to cover expenses while I was gone. Rent, groceries, utilities. She hugged me at the airport, eyes dry. "Take care, honey," she said. It sounded like goodbye. Back in Sydney, the silence was deafening. For the first time in years, I was alone again, but this time, the loneliness felt heavier. I called her every night. At first, she'd answer. Then, less. Then, not at all. A month later, I noticed our joint account had been drained. Everything. Over 300,000 gone. I messaged her. No reply. Called her. Nothing. I reached out to one of her cousins. She said Liza had moved back home, for now. I asked if she was okay. The cousin hesitated, then said quietly, "She's with someone." That was the moment the dream finally died. I booked a return flight, half out of rage, half out of disbelief. When I got back to Palawan, the house was empty. The door unlocked, the room stripped bare, no clothes, no photos, not even the rice cooker, just echoes. A neighbor told me she'd left a week earlier. With a man, he added, avoiding my eyes. They go Manila. I spent 2 days sitting on that porch, staring at the sea, trying to piece together how it had all fallen apart. How the woman who once made me believe in love again had turned my life into rubble. The strangest part was how quiet it all felt. No shouting, no final fight, just silence. And the slow, sinking realization that I'd been replaced. Then, the phone calls started. Unknown numbers. Hang-ups. Once, a man's voice said, "Move on, foreigner," before hanging up. Another time, a text came through. "She's happy now. Let her be." I never replied. I tried to get legal help. A lawyer in Puerto Princesa told me marriage annulments in the Philippines could take years and cost a fortune. I didn't have either. My visa was expiring. My money was gone. My pride, too. That's when the real doubt began, not about her, but about myself. Had I been naive? Desperate? Maybe both. Maybe I was just another lonely foreigner who mistook kindness for love, attention for devotion. I thought I was building a home. She was building an escape route. Every corner of that island reminded me of her, the cafe where she used to drink iced coffee, the market stalls where she'd laugh with vendors, the beach where we first kissed. Paradise had turned into a haunted house. I sold what little I had left, the tricycle, the furniture, the phone I'd bought her. I left the island quietly, one suitcase lighter and 10 years older. On the plane, I kept thinking of that first night we met. The way she smiled at me over the reception desk, her hair tied back, eyes shining. I wanted to hate her, really. I did. But all I could feel was exhaustion, because deep down, I wasn't angry that she lied. I was angry that I needed the lie. Back in Australia, I tried to rebuild. I found a cheap apartment near the docks, picked up remote work again, and told everyone who asked that the marriage just didn't work out. I didn't tell them the full story that I'd been cleaned out, humiliated and discarded like a tourist trinket. Pride is a funny thing. It makes you hide the parts of your life that might make others pity you. But nights were the hardest. The silence felt heavier than before. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was her, an apology, a confession, anything. But weeks passed, then months. Nothing. Just a hollow ache that wouldn't leave. Sometimes I'd scroll through her old Facebook profile, see the photos still up our wedding day, the beach trips, the smiles that now looked rehearsed. Then one day, her status changed. In a relationship. The profile picture showed her and Jay, the same man from those messages, posing by a new motorcycle. My motorcycle. I stared at that photo for hours. It was like staring at my own stupidity, pixel by pixel. That night, I drank until sunrise. And when the bottle ran out, I opened the old folder on my laptop. Photos, receipts, screenshots, everything. I started typing a long message to her. The kind you never send but write to purge the poison. I told her I forgave her. I told her she'd broken me. I told her I still loved her, and I hated myself for that. Then I deleted it. A week later, she finally reached out. The message was simple. Please stop contacting my family. Let me live my life. I hadn't even contacted them. But the tone, cold, detached, confirmed what I'd been refusing to accept. To her, I was just a closed chapter, a lesson learned. I wish I could say that was the moment I moved on. It wasn't. I spent another year drifting between work and depression, haunted by questions I'd never get answers to. Why me? Why pretend to love me when she could have just walked away? But over time, the questions stopped mattering. The truth was simple. I gave too much, too fast, to someone who saw my love as opportunity. Still, I couldn't shake the memories. Sometimes I'd catch the smell of jasmine and feel her beside me, or hear Tagalog on the street and feel my stomach twist. I even started chatting with other Filipinas online, not for romance, just familiarity. The warmth, the way they called me kuya or sir. It reminded me of better days, even if they were built on lies. Then one night, nearly 2 years later, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello? The line was filled with background noise traffic, voices. Then I heard her voice. Hi, honey. My breath caught. Liza? Yeah, it's me. For a moment, time froze. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or hang up. She said she was sorry. That things had gone wrong with Jay, that he'd hit her, taken her money, left her. She sounded desperate, scared, even. I made a mistake, she whispered. Can you help me? Every rational bone in my body told me to hang up. But my heart, that stupid, loyal heart, started making excuses. Maybe she's changed. Maybe this is my chance to make things right. So I sent money. Not much, just enough to get her on her feet. A week later, another call. More tears. More stories now. She was sick, needed medicine, couldn't find work. I sent more, then more again. Each time, promising myself it would be the last. It took me 3 months to realize it was the same trap all over again. A friend of mine, another expat who'd gone through something similar, tracked her down on Facebook. She wasn't sick. She wasn't alone. She was living with another foreigner in Makati. The same photos, same captions, just a new face beside her. That broke something permanent in me. I changed my number, blocked every account tied to her, deleted our photos for good. Then I sat in the dark and laughed, not because it was funny, but because I finally understood what everyone had tried to warn me about. Paradise isn't about palm trees or warm smiles. It's about illusions. You come chasing beauty, and if you're not careful, it'll take everything you have, your money, your pride, your sense of worth, and leave you staring at the wreckage, wondering how it all looked so perfect from afar. A few months later, I met another woman, this time in Melbourne. A single mom, down to earth, no games. She listened when I told her everything. She didn't judge, just said softly, "You loved someone who didn't love you back. That's not your fault." But even now, when I look at her, part of me flinches as if waiting for the next betrayal. Sometimes I dream of Liza. She's always standing by the sea, barefoot, smiling like she used to, before everything soured. In the dream, I walk toward her, but no matter how far I go, she stays just out of reach. I wake up sweating, heart pounding, caught between longing and disgust. There's a saying I once heard from an old Filipino fisherman: "The ocean gives, and the ocean takes." I think love is the same. Years later, I can still close my eyes and smell the salt in the air, that mix of sea and diesel from tricycles, the way the heat stuck to your skin no matter how often you showered. Palawan hasn't left me. It's stitched into my memory like a tattoo I didn't ask for. I've told this story to only a handful of people. Most just nod politely and say, "Happens to a lot of foreigners there." Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not unique at all, just another cautionary tale whispered in beach bars between beers and bad decisions. But when you've lived it, it doesn't feel like a statistic. It feels like war. The hardest part isn't losing the money, though that hurt. It's losing the version of yourself that believed in love without fear. The part that looked at someone and saw possibility instead of danger. For a long time, I carried shame. People warned me, and I ignored them. I thought I was different, wiser, kinder, more grounded. But love has a way of turning arrogance into naivety. I thought I'd saved her from poverty. In reality, she saved herself from me the moment she found something better. Still, I can't say she was all bad. There were good moments, laughter under typhoon rains, quiet mornings with coffee and rice, her head resting on my chest as the world disappeared. I think she did love me, in her way. But love built on survival has an expiration date. When her needs changed, so did her heart. And maybe I wasn't innocent either. I wanted to be needed. I wanted to be the hero in someone else's story after failing in my own. That's the hidden trap of men like me. We come to Southeast Asia looking for peace. But what we really want is redemption. We think affection will fix what loneliness broke. We forget that paradise doesn't heal you. It just hides your wounds under palm trees. The truth is, I don't hate her anymore. I stopped years ago. Hate is still a form of attachment, and she doesn't deserve that much space in my head. I just hope she found whatever she was chasing: security, stability, maybe even real love. I've found mine in a quieter form. A small life, no grand gestures, no illusions, just mornings with coffee, and a woman who doesn't ask for anything except honesty. She's the one who taught me that love shouldn't feel like debt, it should feel like rest. Sometimes I still get messages from strangers, men asking about how it happened, how to avoid getting trapped. I always tell them the same thing: don't confuse warmth for love. Don't build castles on charm. Don't believe that someone's poverty automatically makes them pure. There are good women everywhere, in Manila, in Bangkok, in Sydney. But love doesn't grow in desperation. It grows in equality. And if you ever find yourself in paradise, remember this. The sun might shine, the sea might sparkle, and someone might smile at you like you're the answer to everything. But paradise has teeth. It takes what you bring, and it always demands payment in the end. I still keep one photo of Liza. It's from before we married. She's standing in the surf, laughing, her hair blowing across her face. Every time I look at it, I feel two things at once: gratitude and grief. Gratitude that I got to feel something that real, even if it wasn't built to last. Grief that I had to lose everything to learn what love isn't. Would I change it if I could? Maybe, maybe not. Because even though she broke me, she also woke me. And sometimes that's what pain is, the teacher you never wanted but always needed. So this is my confession, my warning, my release. To every man chasing happiness under a tropical sun, slow down. Ask questions. Keep your feet on the ground. Because paradise looks a lot like love when you first arrive: warm, inviting, endless. But if you're not careful, it will strip you down to the bone before you realize what it's really selling. In paradise, everything has a price. Be sure to be safe out there. Subscribe for more stories, and be aware of these paradise traps.